So, I mean, novels are, I feel they're very different in form. And so, because I haven't successfully completed one, having written like probably 2 or 3 failed drafts that will be burned summarily, if they haven't already been burned, and they should be burned because they're awful. The demands are different. They are just different animals. I really like what Walter Mosley has to say about the difference between novels and short stories. Mm-hmm. He compares the short story to the experience of being on a desert island versus the experience of being in a novel, which is climbing a mountain. And in the short story, which is a really confined, small space, that desert island, you're stuck there and you're waiting to see what gets drifted ashore, the refuse. Everything is supercharged with meaning. It comes from a vast out there. That's the way that short stories work. Whereas a novel, you're climbing this thing you can't see the top of, and you may go the wrong direction for like hundreds of meters before you figure out your course and then correct. And you're always going upwards, and it's a struggle. And when you get to the top, then you can appreciate the view that's below and what you have conquered to get there. I take those as being like the fundamental bulwark of like how a reader experiences the two kinds of work. And I have not yet constructed a mountain. I can do desert islands, it feels like, pretty well. I don't know that I quite buy George Saunders' theory that he said that it's like, I am a really fantastic maker of yurts. But I figured out that I could make an entire mansion if I just stitched the yurts together. I don't know that I buy that for me. Like, I don't feel like I can just stitch several short stories together and make that work as a novel. Some people do. You would argue it. I don't feel like the best novels, in my understanding of what the form does or can do, is served well by that. I love short novels, in particular, those that sort of run under the 300-page gamut. That's where I tend to go. I don't like door stoppers as much. I find them work to get into. I like the novels that feel condensed and powerful, but still are like not a short story, you know? I'm thinking of Waiting for the Barbarians by J.M. Coetzee, which is one of my absolute favorite novels. Or, God, even like The Book of Aaron by Jim Shepard, my mentor. The Orphan Master's Son, which I think is right around that 300-page mark, but it's definitely a novel. It's not a short story. These are, they just operate differently, and learning how to do that is I feel like, I don't know, you end up making a lot of false starts before something good happens. I have the germ of something that I think is good. I think like I'm going to, after turning my attentions towards the stories now, because I feel like that's where the heat is in my writing. After I do what I want to do with some stories, I have to go back after I've let this sit for a while, and this will be like probably the 3rd or 4th time I've been through this progress where like I'll make certain progress with the novel, and then I'll set it aside and let it sort of stew for a while. I feel like this is the point in my career where I have to start isolating myself. Like I'm going to have to look at a residency or something where I go away and do something dramatic where I am cut off from like all humanity and civilization for a period of like weeks at a time before I start delving into that again. But when I do, I think I have enough of an idea of what the novel is that I can really make an attack in earnest. That's no guarantee of success, and I know that. But I feel like I've been working towards getting the chutzpah up to make the attempt. There's something that goes with that too. I read something very recently by Maggie Nelson, who was talking about her collection Bluettes, And she said that she went in and did all of these interviews for years for jobs, academic jobs. And they would look at her CV and they were saying, what are you working on now? She said, I'm writing this collection of lyrical essays around the color blue. And she hadn't written a word of it. And for years she would do this just to keep the idea of it alive. In fact, I can pull that very quote up because I think it goes to the experience of living with an imperfect thing that's mostly an idea that you really want to do, but it exists in the ether for so long. She said, at a job interview at a university, 3 men sitting across from me at a table. On my CV, it says, I am currently working on a book about the color blue. I have been saying this for years without writing a word. It is, perhaps, my way of making my life feel in progress, rather than a sleeve of ash falling off of a lit cigarette. And I think that's true. I think that's what the novel is for most of us while we're gestating it. Another quick anecdote. I know I drop a lot of names, and I'm sorry, but it's just what we do because, like I said, writers are in conversation with other writers. David Foster Wallace had this beautiful analogy to writing a novel being essentially like being followed by this hideous, deformed ghost baby that crawls onto the edge of your bed in the morning with its little flipper arms. And it follows you into like Shoney's restaurant. And only you can see it. Only you can see it. Its horrible deformities. And you feel this strange compulsion to want to pick up this deformed baby and try and fix it for years. And it just follows you around and you can't let go of it. That's the experience of living with a novel at this stage. It's just, I'm followed by this deformed flipper baby that I have to fix, and only I can do it, but only I can see it, so it's really just my problem.